Hi there. Good to see you all eating and enjoying your Wednesday and your hump day. I haven't been in San Diego for very long. I'm not going to like this. I have a very loud voice, so it should work without that thing. I got to believe San Diego hosts the best chapter of IFMA in the entire world. Am I right? I mean, that's what I've noticed so far. I can't believe the energy in this group. It's really amazing, and I look forward to getting to know all of you. First question I want to ask is, how many of you have been approached by lighting people at least once? Now, the banks and the schools get hammered. How many of you have been approached by more than 3 lighting people talking to you about lighting? That's right. So that's one of the reasons why I'm here today. I've got to tell you a little confession that while most of my career has been spent in the electrical and lighting world, I made the decision about 6 weeks ago to shake it all up, change everything. I now sell generators and generator maintenance. But I wanted you guys to know that primarily because I think it's important you understand that I am not promoting a product. I'm not promoting electrical services, design services, retrofit work. I'm simply here to help you folks navigate through all the information that you're getting from a number of different sources on lighting. Because I must tell you that since I've moved to Southern California, it's been about 3 years now, I've heard the biggest fiction surrounding lighting, energy efficiency, what you need to do, what you can't do. There's a lot of misinformation out there. So I thought that I would volunteer to talk to you today to get you through the basic concepts of lighting and the basic things you need to watch out for when you're considering doing an energy retrofit. So, lighting. Here's some basics. We're going to go through how much energy lighting costs, and I've got a little quote there from one of my customers, kind of an interesting story that I'll share with you a little bit later. He said to me, "I don't believe you, it's just the lights." It's not just a light bulb. There's all kinds of different electric light sources. They do different things in order to deliver a luminance to us. We'll go through those different sources. We'll go through what Mother Nature does for us automatically, and that is the right kind of lighting at the right time. We'll also go through LED because, of course, LED is the wave of the future, and I'll talk a little bit about how it came on like a tsunami not very long ago, and it's not going to go away. We'll talk a little bit about the energy code in California. I could talk for 3 days on the energy code because it's just that complex. We certainly won't get into the complexities. We'll also talk about what LED and specifically the technology behind LED can do for us and where it's going. And then we will talk a little bit about how to have a successful upgrade in your own facility, primarily the things to watch out for and the things that you want in that upgrade. So here we can take a look at the kind of energy consumption that goes into the various different buildings that we as humans inhabit in the United States. We've got here our school pie chart, commercial buildings, light industrial, and our residences. You'll see that in schools and commercial buildings and even in our light industrial, we've got a big chunk of the pie going towards lighting costs. Why? That's because we are usually inside of very great big buildings. We have to light those buildings because they were designed without thinking about bringing in the daylight. And it's costing us a ton of money to run that lighting. It's something we take for granted, but when you realize how much money it costs you, like Lisa said, even in her own home, changing to LEDs saves on that electric bill. And because I've been in the business for as long as I have, I was getting free LED light bulbs way before they were on the store shelves, and watched my electricity bill go to about half at home. Fortunately, I was in an area where I wasn't having to run the heat or the air conditioning very much, so most of my energy cost was lighting. Here in California, in our homes, we can only attribute about 6% of our energy bill to lighting, and that's because we're cooling so much. And at times, space heating, plus we've got our pools and our toys and our electronics and all that jazz. That's pretty good. Nationwide, residential lighting accounts for about 13% of the energy bill at home. Now my story about my gentleman. I was over in Phoenix before I came to San Diego and pushing retrofit projects. Had a gold mine of a project going on. I had an industrial facility that was actually an iron forging place. Great big huge buildings all lit with 1,000 watt metal halides. Great big huge, I call them glare bombs. Great big ones in the ceiling. He had hundreds of these things. And of course, I did all the calculations, did all the efficiency rebates from the utility, was so excited to make this presentation in front of him. The plant manager got me in there. He's the one who got me in the first place, sat down in front of the owner. Went through the financials. You guys, this project paid back in 10 months. That's how much electricity I was saving him. It was a no-brainer. I was going to get a sale that day. This man, about halfway through my presentation to him, wrapped his arms in front of his chest, and as all of us salespeople know, when that happens, you've lost him. And he pushes away from the table and he says, "I don't believe you, because it's just the lights." I said, "Well, I'm using the utility forms here. You can, check with the utility, check my calculations, but this is for real." And he says, "No, don't believe them either. Lighting cannot cost that much money." And I folded up my presentation and walked out the door because there's no selling a guy like that. I wish I could have convinced him because he was spending $10,000 a month that he didn't need to. And it's something that you really need to get into your head. Every time you turn on a light source, it's costing you money one way or another. So here are all of the major types of electrical generated light sources. So many of these we have lived with all of our lives. Some of them we haven't even seen yet. And the pros and cons of each of those. So when we talk about lighting, and especially in terms of energy efficiency, what we're talking about is three basic concepts: efficacy, or lumens per watt, or just like miles per gallon in a car. How much electricity are we having to put into a light source to get the amount of light we need out of it? We're also talking about life, the life of a light bulb, any given system at all. So somebody said, I believe it was these guys over here, 25 years of life. Most LEDs are coming in anywhere between 10 and 20 years. So that means you don't have to replace that light bulb or the driver or the ballast like we're doing so much and have been doing for years and years. Lumen maintenance, really important, something that people don't think about very much, but some of our light sources that we have been living with our entire lives are dropping light as they age, and sometimes significantly. So for instance, in the old-fashioned street lights that we're used to seeing, not the new LEDs, but the metal halides or the high-pressure sodiums, many of those light bulbs, when they reach 50% of their useful life, they've already lost 50% of the light that they started out with. It's really important, especially if you're a lighting designer, to account for that lumen drop-off. If you're designing for a certain light level, you need to design a little bit higher at the beginning of that light system if you want a sustained light level that's appropriate for the working space. So with those three things in mind, we can real quickly go through the various different types of lighting. We know incandescent light, we've had them in our houses forever and ever. Simple light bulb. Lovely, wonderful, warm color. Not very energy efficient, and wow, it sure does not have a very long life at all. We go then into our fluorescent light sources, our linear fluorescence and our compacts. You can see that linear fluorescent, compact fluorescent, they're both okay in terms of energy efficiency. They're okay. Life, pretty long life, especially compared to incandescent. The problem, though, is that they don't do very well with color. And compact fluorescence, I remember I was working for GE when compact fluorescence first came out. And they were telling us, go, you know, this is the most efficient thing we have, go sell a ton of these things. Well, I knew that people weren't going to like them very much. And the reason why is because, as you all have experienced, I'm sure, you turn on a compact fluorescent light bulb and then you wait. And then you wait some more. And finally, it gets to full brightness. But before that, it's very, very dim. Usually the color and the color rendering capabilities of the compact fluorescent aren't very good. I was so pleased to see LED come along because it gets rid of a lot of those problems that we suffer with compact fluorescent. HID, high intensity discharge, those are the lights that are in our street lights, that are in our industrial facilities. Sometimes they're orange in color, sometimes they're bright white in color. They are the glare bombs, though. Those are the ones where your eyes hurt when you look at them, and that's because of the contrast between the background and the amount of light that these light bulbs are putting out. They're pretty energy efficient for what they do until LED came along. They were ideal for industrial applications because they had a longer life than anything else. Induction, don't see that much, but we do see some. They came along right in that tiny little window between compact fluorescent days and the LED days. That's when induction came in. Induction actually was born in a laboratory the year I was born. It is a fancy fluorescent technology. It uses a different technology to emit light out of a phosphor-coated light bulb. Extremely long life. These guys will last, in many cases, longer than LED and are perfect for applications that are way, way, way high up. But again, you don't see as much of them as we would have if LED had not come along. Plasma, you still see them at Light Fair, some plasma light sources. The bugs haven't been worked out of plasma very much. It's very difficult to control the heat and light output that's coming out of plasma. Very tiny little light source, just punches the light though. I don't know where it's gonna go. I think LED may be overtaking it just in terms of engineering attention, but we may see it in the future. LED, this is everybody's deal. We've got real low lumens per watt, or real high efficacy, real low energy usage. It's also incredibly easy to control the light that's coming out of LEDs, and it's inexpensive to manufacture fixtures with. Also, we don't need the big footprint of fixtures in order to get light out of them. We can make a teeny tiny little fixture and just punch out a whole bunch of light. Efficacy is going up. The color and color rendering capabilities of LED just keep getting better and better and better and better. It's getting to the point where we can mimic the sun, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. It's still a little pricey. We're seeing light bulbs come down with the help of our friends at SDG&E. LED systems, however, are still a little pricey. They're getting better. They're not dropping as fast as the industry thought they would. Pricing is still pretty high, usually offset by energy savings though. And then OLED, which just turns me on like nobody's business, because OLED stands for organic LED. And I'm not going to go into why it's called organic. It's not. You can't eat it. Please don't eat it. But it is very thin and it is very flexible. So think the LG Flex phone. That's the phone that can bend in your pocket when you sit on it. That's OLED. That's the screen is the OLED in it, and it gives it that flexibility. Google just invested billions of dollars into LG because of their LED technology. There is a new Philips representative in town. She just opened an office. She's got in her office what's known as luminescent textiles. That means she's got furnitures and wallpaper that are light sources. OLED, if we can get the efficacy up there, if we can get the light output up there, we're going to have couches that are our light sources, tiles on the walls that are our light sources. So very, very exciting, not really ready for prime time yet, but kind of fun. So there's two other components of lighting that a lot of people don't understand. This has been, ever since I started talking to people about lighting and what it does, this is the one concept that I have the most difficult time trying to get people to understand, and that is the difference between color and color rendering. So we can pretty much grasp color. I mean, when you look at color right here, you see that that is our orange glow, that's our household lighting, that's the stuff that we were kind of raised with at home. It's on a scale called the Kelvin scale, and it reads at about 2,700 degrees Kelvin. Kelvin, the higher the number goes in the Kelvin scale, the wider the light goes. So you can see over here, you've got the 5,000 degree Kelvin, that's almost on the bluish side. Very white, bright, sort of energizing. And then for years and years and years in our office environment, especially with linear fluorescent and T8 technology, 3,500 was what you saw everywhere. And that's the stuff that's kind of on the pink side. People thought, designers thought, that that would be better for an office environment because it makes people's skin tones look better. I grew up with cool white T12 that was somewhere in this range, had terrible color rendering, and it was a nightmare because everybody looked dead. And it was too bright, and that's what I was, trying to learn under, and it was just really, really bad. Things are getting better now. That's color. Now, the next concept is color rendering. And this is the important part, because while color will give us an emotional response usually, color rendering is what really does the trick in an indoor environment. So color rendering has been really important to retailers, as you can imagine. Best color rendering usually comes out of an incandescent light source or an halogen light bulb. Incandescent is actually on the CRI scale at 100. We may not see colors that well under incandescent because, of course, it's being interfered with the color temperature of the light. But you can see the difference here. Now, all of these things are in a light source that has a color of 4,100 degrees Kelvin. But you can see the difference in how those colors actually appear to our eyes because the color rendering is so much higher over here. So it's important to not only say what color of light am I getting out of this light source, but how well does it render colors. An example of the difference between color and color rendering, which is really important and interesting since I've moved to Southern California, is nowhere else but Southern California and Hawaii do we have the light source called low pressure sodium in our streetlights. Nowhere else. And the reason is because under low pressure sodium, and those are the really super orange ones, low pressure sodium has a color rendering index of 17. That means that anything looks gray underneath that particular light source. The reason why it's been banned by municipalities nearly nationwide is because the first responders could not tell the difference between blood, oil, gas, or water on the pavement when they showed up because the color rendering was so bad. I couldn't believe it when I moved here and still saw some of those. I was like, what? But of course it's because of the observatory. The observatory is still saying that they prefer these kinds of light bulbs. Really, the point is that what they don't want is any uplight from the street lights. And up until LED, that's what we were dealing with, is all this light bouncing all over the place that we couldn't control, and that was interfering with the observatory. So color and color rendering, pretty important stuff. So now we get into Mother Nature and our world and how it works and how our light interfaces with our biology. So Mother Nature definitely has it right as far as humans and animals are concerned. Daylight has to do with color and intensity. Those two things really affect humans and animals a great deal. So people started to notice that, and this was happening right around the mid to late 90s. People started noticing that humans were reacting a lot better to outdoor sources, biophilic design. I know that we have some associates in this membership group that deal with bringing plants indoors. Humans love having nature. They love looking at nature. They love being in nature. And so when we're in buildings most of our lives, we react better when there's natural elements within those buildings. So in terms of lighting, there's been a number of studies done. This first one here was actually commissioned by Pacific Gas and Electric, and the first version of this study was done in 1978, and I actually have a copy of it, an actual copy of it, that I'm not letting go to anybody or putting in the silent auction, so forget it. But this study basically said that for students in classrooms that had a whole bunch of daylight, testing showed that they were 20% faster on math, 26% faster on reading and reading comprehension, just because they had daylight in their classroom. Another study done, it happened in 2000, was a particular retrofit where Pennsylvania Power and Light did all their financial calculations for an energy retrofit and came up with a payback of about 4.1 years. Okay, this will be paid back in energy savings, 4.1 years, not a bad retrofit, actually. But when they started to dollarize the benefits to humans, to their productivity, to the reduced absenteeism, when they started to put dollar figures on how it was affecting humans, they found that the ROI was about 1,000%. That instead of 4.1 years, that project did get paid back in 69 days. And that was just for installing skylights. That's it. Amazing, amazing results. Again, daylight and the effect that it has on humans cannot be overlooked. And last but not least, healthcare, mental health care, nursing homes, retirement homes, schools. If you add daylight, people's moods come up. People are happier with daylight in their environments. It makes them more energized. It more closely relates to their circadian rhythms. So I'm going to talk more about this because this, out of all the lighting stuff that I have been through in my life, is what turns me on the most. And that's called human-centric lighting. And what this is this is the concept that if we can most closely match what's going on during the day, so we get this beautiful white light coming up in the morning, high intensity, it's wonderful, it gets us up, it gets us out the door, we got lots of energy. And then come nighttime or late afternoon, that color of light is getting oranger and it's getting less. There's not so much of it. And certainly by nighttime and when we are in our homes, we want that color to be on the very orangey side, and we want our light levels to be lower because that helps us go to sleep. Our bodies work on 24-hour cycles. You know, we get up, we do our thing, we get ready for bed, we go to bed. Okay? I bring this up because with LED, we're able to actually, within the same fixture, mimic these color and light level changes. And it's called color tuning. There is an organization out there called Humancentric Lighting. I am a member. It is based upon the results of a discovery that was made back in 2000 that there are cells in our eyes that don't pick up any imaging at all, but it does pick up light. And the information it gathers from the light that we're in tells our brains and our metabolism where we are in the day. Once this discovery was made, lighting designers and engineers alike went, oh my goodness, we've been doing this all wrong. And they had been doing it all wrong. So we've been subjecting students like myself to horrible color and too much light in classrooms and wonder why they get antsy and have headaches. We've been putting our seniors and our mentally ill and our healing bodies into light that is either too harsh and too white, or it's too dark and it suppresses our mood. Really what we need to do in all of our environments is inject daylight, and if we can't do that, try to mimic what's going on outside, and that will help our bodies and our minds be at full productivity. Very exciting stuff. By the way, there is a classroom here in San Diego that has a full workup in terms of human-centric lighting. It's amazing. The kids are telling the teachers when to turn on the math lights. The math lights are the bright white, high intensity. They feel better doing math under those lights. They also tell the teacher that, you know, it's art time. Can we turn off those lights? You know, so the teacher had to learn the controls, but she doesn't even deal with them anymore. The kids just deal with them. There's also a school district up in the Seattle area, and believe me, I'm from the Pacific Northwest, so you want to talk about needing to fix our indoor lighting up in the Pacific Northwest. Oh my goodness. I fled because I was tired of being depressed all the time. They did a big retrofit in, I think it was the Tacoma School District, where they did 2 or 3 schools and all the classrooms had human-centric lighting in it, and they watched the test scores just skyrocket. Happier kids, happier teachers. It works. So this actually is a picture of a sleep institute in Pennsylvania. It had one of the first color tuning lighting systems in it, and they did lots of studies about people and how they slept according to the light, how quickly they woke up. I put that in there because LED gives us so much flexibility and so much design capability. LED is light emitting diode, for those of you who don't know. It is 100% electronic. There's no combustion going on in this little gizmo like there is in nearly all of our other light sources. It's fully recyclable. There's generally no glass, so we don't have to worry about that anymore. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of HID light bulbs failing violently where they just blow up and hot molten quartz drops down on the people. We're going to avoid all of those by using an LED. You guys laugh, but they put a law in Washington that there was no more HID light bulbs in gyms because that happened to somebody. A mom got really badly burned. LED gives us exceptional performance, without a doubt. I mean, the amount of wattage it takes to create the kind of light that we need in any given space is pretty minimal. And then you slap lighting controls on top of that, which it's electronic. It loves to be controlled. Tell me what to do. I'll do anything for you. That's an LED. You add controls to LED. We've got lighting systems now that are going to represent this much of that electrical use pie chart. So that's why you people are all getting talked about doing lighting retrofits from lighting people, because it's low-hanging fruit. In terms of energy efficiency, it is the system that's going to give you the biggest bang for your retrofit buck, even beyond HVAC, because HVAC, we can't quite squeeze out so much energy savings out of those systems yet. It's coming. Also with LED, again, we can control that light so well. So think about all the engineers who were sitting around playing with mirrors trying to figure out what to do with this light that was bouncing all over the place and within a fixture. Gone. Those guys had to get new jobs, because now all we have to do is put a little teeny tiny piece of plastic around that diode and we can pinpoint that light 30 feet out. Very easy to control the light. And we can color tune to give our indoor environments a more natural look to them. Still pricey, like I have up there. LED is very sensitive to high temperatures. But don't let that scare you, because Phoenix has retrofit all their streetlights with LED. As hot as it stays at night there, those LEDs are still performing pretty darn well. We do have to replace the system when it finally fails. And in the lighting world, we say that an LED system has failed when it's lost 30% of its light. So LEDs will continue to burn forever and ever and ever. They're just going to be very, very dim. So once they lose about 30% of their initial light output, we say the system's done.
How do you know when you've hit that 30%?
Well, you can have fancy control systems that tell you. Your eyes are going to tell you, but I advise all facility managers and the people who work for them, always have a light meter, always, with you. Because that's really going to tell you what's going on with your light, and it's especially going to help you when you're dealing with people who have complaints about the lighting, because you'll have something where you can prove to them that, okay, you know, you're getting the same amount of light as Susie is, you just think you're getting less, you know. Remember too, I'll just interject this, that by the time we are 50 years old, we've lost so much of our ability, our visual acuity, that we need about 50% more light than a 20-year-old does. So if you've got, in like many of our facilities we've been talking about, we've got all age groups like never, ever before. Pay attention to the fact that your older workers are needing more light. Often they are not getting it, and that hurts everyone because they complain more, and their productivity goes way down. Nope, gotta go forward. Okay, so now let's talk about gotchas with LEDs. And this is where I really want to help, because so much misinformation is out there. They're not created equal. I was thinking this morning, it was about 7 years ago when I first heard about LEDs, and I was in the business. Within 10 months, that's all I was hearing about. All the lighting manufacturers had gone to creating fixtures with LEDs in them. All the light bulbs, you couldn't find an incandescent light bulb anymore except for a Walmart. It happened so quickly. Well, when it did, and when those light sources started to be electrical and not combustion, people started making LED fixtures in their garage. And, well, why not? You just take a little strip, you put it into a housing, you hang it up, we're good to go, right? A lot of them in Southern California were doing this. And what happened was, we had companies out there who were saying they had a 20-year warranty, but they'd had a business license for about 8 months. That means that we don't even know if that business is viable yet, right? So how are they going to warranty their product if it suddenly goes out one day? Sometimes you will get LEDs, they'll sell you on the energy efficiency, oh my gosh, put this in, but you're not able to dim them. And so you've got dimming circuits all over the place, or, you know, dimmers in your auditorium. And you try to call this company and say, well, you sold me a non-dimming product. Well, no, we sold you what we sold you. Sorry, you got dimmers. So if you need dimming, make sure it's able to dim. Lots of people will say, oh yeah, we've got great color on this thing. You know, it's 4,200 degrees Kelvin, it's got a CRI of 92. And then you put it up in the ceiling and it looks like an ice cube. It's blue. It is not putting out the light that it said it would. Lots and lots of false stories, perpetuated by manufacturers, by the way, out there in the marketplace, especially in Southern California. Mounting components don't meet your needs. So they come in, they pitch on these fixtures, you got a lot of fixtures, it's great, and then all of a sudden, oh my gosh, we can't take this fixture and put a stem on it. All of our fixtures are hung on 3-foot stems. Or you get a whole bunch of pole lights that are designed to go on round poles. You got a bunch of square pole lights. It's the details more than ever with LED that are going to sting you. And this one is probably the biggest problem. And that is that whatever LED light source you've chosen, you've also chosen to dim it, which you pretty much have to for code now. The dimming system that you've got and the LED system that you've got are not compatible. So fixtures won't dim, or they'll flicker, or they'll cut out. You have to watch the compatibility of both systems because LED's picky about how that sine wave comes in and energizes them. So let's talk about some of the things. If you're looking at buying some LED lighting, what things should you really be looking for? Well, first and foremost, DLC. This is Design Lights Consortium. Almost all utilities throughout the nation are requiring that whatever they give rebates on has a DLC listing. That's because of what I was talking about earlier, where we've got the garage guys, claiming a whole bunch of stuff, but not delivering. The utilities were tired of throwing their money at something that didn't perform the way they needed it to. So they engaged the Design Lights Consortium to test most major manufacturers' fixtures. If it doesn't have a DLC rating on it, don't buy it. Plain and simple. And this is mostly for your bigger systems, so your light fixtures. Lighting facts. So this is when we go to Home Depot, when we buy our light bulbs. This is what we're going to see now. And this is a government program. It's a voluntary program, but it's pretty much standard now, where manufacturers label their LEDs with efficacy, with the color that can be expected out of this light source, and the color rendering index. I have to chuckle every time I do this because I picked the worst light bulb in the world. It's got an efficacy, lumens per watt, of 33. Okay, our normal efficacies with LEDs now are 100. So this must have been a first-gen light bulb. I couldn't figure out who the manufacturer is. Please try to go for something over 33. That's pretty bad, okay? Not good at all. And then last but not least, if you are looking at doing your outdoor lighting, and some of you, if I had a facility to manage, the very first lighting retrofit I'd do would be on my outdoor lighting. It's really where you're going to get the biggest energy savings, without a doubt. And you don't have to mess around with as much control as you do indoors. This is bug ratings. Bug stands for backlight, uplight, and glare. So that goes back to the whole observatory notion. We don't want a whole bunch of light bouncing around. LEDs do happen to be very glaring because so much light is coming out of such a small little area, and our street lights are being run at night. So the contrast, and that's what makes glare, contrast, is really high with LED lights. What's nice though is that we can direct that light so well that we don't have the backlight that we did with HID. So just a simple little house side shield is going to take care of any issues. But you really want a good bug rating for dark sky compliance, for light spill onto neighbors and roadways and things like that. Any decent lighting system is going to have all of these certifications and components to it. Please look for DLC. Please look for bug. That's going to keep the garbage out of your facilities. Okay. So we good so far? Now we're going to talk about boring, horrible, complex, awful. We're also going to talk about the thing that makes California the leader in the nation when it comes to energy efficiency. This is the thought process that our state government goes through to make us a real leader, not only in the nation, but in the world, in terms of how we handle our environment and our utilities. And that is our California Building Code. So the thought was, when they put together the 2013 code, and especially now the 2016 code, their thought was, okay, we got these great light sources called LEDs. It's cutting all the energy usage. We love that. Now, we can make it even better if we apply all the controls available to these low-cost light sources. So when we did that, we've got this reduced wattage, we've got reduced burn time, and we've got the best energy savings we can get out of a lighting system so far today. And this is what it means for all of us in the business and for facility managers. It's complex. It's really complex. Basically, if you're building a new building, let the engineers figure out what to do. If we're maintaining our old buildings and we're entering into a retrofit, we got to watch out for Title 24, because for the first time ever in 2013, they actually made code effective on retrofits. And that has put a snag into the entire industry. Many people went out of business because of the energy code, because they just couldn't sell a lighting project. The commission has helped a little bit in making the quantity of fixtures a little bit greater. They haven't helped much. They're holding firm to applying these codes to our retrofits. And really the codes have a couple of different things you have to look out for. Are you altering the lighting in terms of taking out a fixture, putting in a new fixture? Are you redesigning, so you're moving them around? If you are, then you trigger code if you're doing more than 10% of the light fixtures. If you are getting into the guts of a fixture and you're throwing in an LED driver and some LED tubes, or maybe you're going to put in one of those retrofit kits that you can just fit up into the housing, now you've got some leeway a little bit. Used to be 40 fixtures, now it's 70 fixtures. If you do less than 70 fixtures, you don't have to worry about code. If you do more, then you do have to worry about code. Well, what does code mean? Well, code means that we've got to put occupancy sensing, which you should have anyway, on-off controls, both manual and via time switch. You should have those anyway, but here comes the hard part. Daylight sensing for anything that's close to skylights or windows, and it's got to be some footage in. So you've got to be able to dim those fixtures if there's a lot of lighting coming in the window, or maybe even turn them off. And you have to have some level of dimming capability that is manually controlled. So your offices have to have dimmers on them. Dimming can be automatic or manual depending on the type of space. Also, if you've got over 10,000 square foot building, you've got to put in some sort of demand response system. Now those three last components are the most expensive part of any retrofit, hands down. On top of that, we now have to have not only the retrofit permitted, but we have to have it accepted by a CalCEP approved lighting acceptance technician who has to go through and do a whole bunch of paperwork saying, yeah, they did it right in order for the permit to get stamped. Yes, ma'am. Okay. So it's complex. And we really have about 1 watt per square foot that we can put into a building now. If we can get it to ½ a watt per square foot, we can pretty much ignore the last 3 parts of the control that I was talking about. Super complex, super hard to avoid Title 24. I will say this. It's kind of hard to find the Title 24 police, because policing has been left up to the local entities. It's been left up to the cities, the counties. Some are hot on it. By golly, they're going to catch you. Some are going, nope, I don't even want to talk about Title 24. Kind of important to know what city you live in before you embark on a retrofit. So because Mom said that I got to scoot, here's outdoor lighting. Just remember, more than 50%, if you touch more than 50% of your outdoor lighting, every single piece of lighting needs to be touched and brought up to code. That's the most important thing to remember. Pole lights need to have occupancy sensors on them, most of them. Okay, Internet of Things. I'm going to bust right through this. This is so exciting. You guys do your research. It's so exciting. So what does LED give us? Wi-Fi. 100 times faster than Wi-Fi. It's also very secure. You got to be in line of sight of that lighting fixture in order to use the internet. Cool. They've done it in Paris. Works like a dream. By the way, Europe is way ahead of us and is into definitely the Jetsons right now. We're a little bit farther behind. Big data, license plate recognition. We've got sensors that are able to take pictures of license plate. We've got sensors that will track us through the store. It's all in the light fixtures. And public safety. So as San Diego, they're redoing their street lights downtown. They are so progressive. They're putting in cameras and sensors that will allow us to know where a parking space is open, where to flash the lights so that the ambulance can find out where to go because somebody's on the ground. They have charging stations on top of them for drones coming in the future that will be able to drop defibs down to the sidewalk. That's all through our lighting system. So the future is gonna be cool. Big brotherish, yeah. Yeah, but you know what? I've had Alexa in my house now for about 6 months. I don't mind her. She can listen to me talking about what to have for dinner. I don't care. Okay, you're doing a lighting upgrade. First thing you want to do is engage SDG&E. I'm so glad Arnie talked about programs. I'm going to mention a few more. They do have a comprehensive audit program now available for some of their customers. It'll look at lighting and HVAC and a whole bunch of other stuff free of charge. On-bill financing is still viable for energy projects. So for those projects that you need a little bit of help with financing, 0% interest on your bill. Midstream, Arnie, you called it upstream. I call it midstream, where the distributors are actually receiving the rebates now so that when an electrical contractor goes into the distributor, they'll be able to get a discounted price for the product going into your facility.
Yeah, a lot of times internally we refer to as midstream because we'll do buy downs at the retailer level.
Gotcha.
So
Okay.
that's our internal name
Okay.
for that. And also if you're going to do a lighting project, don't do it now. Wait till we roll out the rebates.
In May. Yes, absolutely. So things are changing with the whole utility thing and rebates. So yeah, watch the website. And I put down here where to go to the website, go to business, ways to save, and it'll take you through all the ways to do that. Just make sure that whoever you're working with understands all the things that I just talked about today. So they got to know basic lighting concepts. They got to know what's going on in your building and how you're trying to light it. They need to know what the incentive programs are. They need to know all the ins and outs about mounting and dimming and compatibility. And they got to have light in their eyes, no pun intended, okay? They need to know code. A business gets smacked with a code violation and it's going to be expensive. It's going to hurt. They need to understand product applications and financial concepts beyond simple payback and return on investment. Every business is different. Their employees are different. Every site is different. Get somebody who knows what they're doing and get somebody who's not afraid to say, you know, my stuff won't do that for you, but let me give you the number of somebody who has stuff that will, okay? You didn't fall asleep. I'm so glad. Thank you for your attention. Good luck.